Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of MANN Cinema Reviews. It is your lovely host, as always, Peter Mann. What's up, y'all? Back at it again, and we're gonna get into this new review. But before we do, go ahead, press like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well to notify you of brand new reviews coming to you on this channel that we call MANN Cinema Reviews. Before I get into it, today we're going to be discussing a new horror film. Pardon the Mai Tai, it's just been the drink of the week. I am on vacay. More ice. But today we're going to be talking about 2022's Firestarter, based on the novel by Stephen King, which is a remake of the 1984 Firestarter starring Drew Barrymore. In this film, we have Zac Efron and newcomer Ryan, Kiera, Armstrong. They play the father-daughter, and that is Andy and Charlie McGee on the run. They have special powers, one of telepathy for the father, and one of pyrokinesis for young Charlie. They're on the run from a shadow government agency called The Shop, which ran experiments on Zac Efron's character, as well as the mother of Charlie, played by Lemmon, and she also had superpowers of telekinesis. So that's what we have here today. I don't know why they decided to remake a classic. Well, I don't know if I can call it classic because I just barely saw it today. But it was definitely a film that was very seminal to Drew Barrymore's career. I think it was her second or third. I know that she had done E.T. prior, 2 years before. So we see a cute 8-year-old Drew Barrymore lighting shit on fire. And that all happens mainly towards the end. We get a little bit of flares that flare up when she gets flustered at the airport, and you know, her dad's like pushing people. He can control people with his mind. It's a lot of hullabaloo. I think I've never read the Stephen King novel, but it's the more fantastical Stephen King, not really the horror basis, but more sci-fi. It does have horror elements. I did like the stronger cast in the '84 production. We had George C. Scott, we had Martin Sheen, and again, a cute Drew Barrymore. For this film, our strongest lead actor is Zac Efron. I'm not saying anything about Zac Efron. Listen, he's done a few things recently, mainly that Ted Bundy film, which was, but he was great in it. He definitely looked and acted the part. So kudos to Zac Efron. But this is weightless. This is just dribble. It's boring. It's the cardinal sin of a Stephen King adaptation, just to be boring. But this young actor, she does well. There is great chemistry between Zac Efron and her, but the script is terrible. It's just restless, and it runs into just these horror tropes that are just very uninspiring. And for this film to be the cardinal sin of being boring is terrible. Now, we had Kurtwood Smith in one scene. It's a very scene-stealing scene. A lot of people are talking about it being the best scene in the film. He definitely chose the scenery, but it felt like also phoned in. I mean, this is the Dr. Wanless who gave Zac Efron the chemical compound to gain his powers, along with his wife, played by Lemmon, and ultimately giving birth to Charlie, who can set things on fire. This scene was okay. It's very just kind of overdrawn and blown out, and just kind of corny and hammy. Kurtwood Smith does what he can do to elevate the material. Also, this film runs into antagonists that aren't really inspired at all. Gloria Reuben plays the bad lieutenant that's the head of this agency. Hollister, which originally was Martin Sheen. You know, there's that gender swap, which is cool, but for her, she really doesn't hold water for me at all, and she is not sinister at all. I will say that Michael Greyeyes playing the Cherokee gun for hire certainly brings authenticity to the book's character. In the 1984 film, it's George C. Scott playing a Cherokee killer. George C. Scott is not Native American, so I do appreciate Michael Greyeyes, but even he doesn't elevate the material, or it's just the character is written very thinly. A lot of it just runs thin, and I have to say that even though this film just is uninspiring, boring, not scary, I will say this: hell of a score, guys. This is scored by John Carpenter himself. Not himself, he also has his son Cody Carpenter and Daniel Davies. These are the trio that has provided the music for the new Halloween iteration. And so it's great to see John Carpenter involved, because once upon a time he was going to direct the 1984 film. He was in early talks to direct. Universal was going to hire him, but then they ended up firing him because of the poor returns on the seminal John Carpenter The Thing, which was a box office bomb, which I still can't believe it. I think it was released around E.T. There's another Drew Barrymore little connection there. But he really dodged the bullet, because this film wasn't the 1984 adaptation wasn't really well received. The best thing that comes out of that is a Universal backlot smorgasbord of special effects and just pyrotechnics at the end. She literally becomes the Terminator, meets Carrie, I guess. Anywho, in this film, like I said, the young actor has great chemistry with Zac Efron. And Zac Efron does what he can do with that gorgeous beard of his. But that's about all he brings to the table with this film. I have to say that this is a doomed production as well, because outside the perfect score by John Carpenter, which is very eerie, the synths are very reminiscent to early Halloween films. That's basically your greatest takeaway, and I'm just glad to see John Carpenter giving it his all. And it's literally the best thing about this movie. This movie is terrible. It was dead on arrival. Again, I just kudos to John Carpenter getting his second crack at Firestarter. Even though he doesn't direct, he still provides an amazing score. And that, ethereal score by Tangerine Dream was also a great highlight from the 1984 adaptation. Needless to say, I gotta say that I wasn't really a fan of the 1984 adaptation. So with this, it's a poor science fiction film, it's a poor horror film with a phenomenal score by John Carpenter and company. With that, I give Firestarter a half a star. This was a great film to review. I went in on a Monday night, no less, 9 o'clock. Was the only patron in the house. Eventually, a couple people came into the theater, but I basically had a private screening of this god-awful mess. But it was a fun mess, and it had a great score. Thank you very much for choosing MANN Cinema Reviews. Wishing all my subscribers just well wishes. Go ahead, press like, subscribe, and keep on keeping on watching all my reviews. And kudos with the recent 80 subscribers. You guys are fantastic. We'll see you on the next one.